I stared at the emergency contact form in my trembling hands, the hospital's fluorescent lights making the white paper almost blinding. The nurse waited patiently by the intake desk, her pen poised, probably wondering why a simple car insurance form was taking me so long to complete. Name of emergency contact. The blank line seemed to mock me. I had no one. No family. My parents died when I was 12. No close friends, I'd made sure of that, keeping everyone at arm's length for 15 years. No boyfriend, no roommate, no one who would come if something happened to me. Except there was someone. Someone who didn't know I existed, but who I'd thought about every single day for half my life. My pen moved almost of its own accord. Dante Russo. The nurse glanced at the paper and her eyebrows rose slightly. Everyone in this city knew that name, even if they pretended not to. Relationship to patient? She asked carefully. I hesitated. What could I possibly write? The boy who saved my life when I was 11. The man whose family died while I hid and did nothing. The person I'd been too afraid to approach for 15 years. Friend, I whispered, hating the lie. She wrote it down without comment, though I saw the question in her eyes. People like me didn't have friends like Dante Russo. I left the hospital quickly, my heart hammering. It was reckless, possibly the most dangerous thing I'd ever done. But something had shifted inside me 3 days ago when I'd finally told someone, Dr. Marcus Chun, a true crime podcast host, about what I'd witnessed at the library massacre. I'd carried that secret like a stone around my neck for so long, and speaking it aloud had felt like breaking a dam. Now I felt exposed, vulnerable, and if someone came for me, if the people who'd killed the Russo family 15 years ago learned there was a witness they'd missed, I needed someone who would understand. Someone who would know exactly what kind of monsters we were dealing with, even if he didn't remember me. The autumn air bit at my cheeks as I walked to my car in the parking garage. My librarian's salary didn't cover much, but my ancient Honda had gotten me through 6 years of faithful service. I slid into the driver's seat, still thinking about the form, about Dante's name written in my handwriting. He'll never actually get called, I told myself. Nothing's going to happen. I was pulling out of the garage when I noticed the headlights behind me. They'd been there when I got in my car, idling 2 rows back. Probably nothing. Probably someone on their phone. But as I turned onto the main road, the headlights followed. My mouth went dry. I made a random right turn. The headlights turned. Left at the next block. They followed. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white. You're being paranoid, I thought desperately. It's just someone going the same direction. But 15 years of looking over my shoulder had taught me to trust my instincts. And my instincts were screaming. I pressed the accelerator, my little Honda struggling to gain speed. The headlights behind me surged closer, brighter, until they filled my rearview mirror like twin suns. I couldn't see the vehicle behind them, couldn't see the driver. Just that blinding light getting closer, closer. The impact came from behind, violent and sudden. My head snapped forward, then back. The steering wheel jerked in my hands. I overcorrected and suddenly I was spinning, the world rotating in sickening circles. Headlights, streetlights, darkness, headlights. The second impact came from the side, deliberate, crushing. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. My car left the road, airborne for one impossible moment, before gravity remembered me. The crash was thunder and chaos. My body slammed against the seatbelt, ribs screaming, the airbag deployed, punching me in the face. The car rolled once, twice, physics and momentum playing tug-of-war with my life. Then stillness. Terrible, ringing stillness. I hung upside down in my seatbelt, blood dripping into my eyes from somewhere on my forehead. Every breath was agony. My vision swam, darkness creeping in at the edges. Through the shattered windshield I saw a figure approaching, boots crunching on broken glass. Unhurried, methodical. They're coming to finish it, I realized with strange clarity. With the last of my strength I fumbled for my phone. It had fallen onto the car's ceiling, now the floor. My fingers found it, slick with blood. I couldn't see the screen properly, couldn't think straight, but muscle memory helped me dial 911. Emergency services, a voice said, distant and tinny. Accident, I managed to gasp. Someone ran me off. The boot stopped beside my window. I saw the edge of a dark coat, a gloved hand reaching down. Ma'am, stay with me. What's your location? But I was already falling into darkness. My last conscious thought a prayer that the hospital would call the name I'd written on that form, that Dante Russo would somehow, impossibly, remember the little girl he'd told to run, that he would come. Darkness wasn't empty. I'd learned that 15 years ago, hiding in the library storage closet while gunshots echoed through the building. Darkness was full of sounds, screaming, running footsteps, a mother's desperate plea, the terrible silence after. I floated in that darkness now, aware but not awake. Voices drifted around me like debris in deep water. ... Massive internal bleeding. ... Surgery immediately. ... No family listed. But there's an emergency contact. ... Your single quotes Rishaw, Dante Russo? That Dante Russo? Something beeped steadily nearby. My heart beat, I realized distantly. Still going. Still fighting. More voices, deeper now. Authoritative. A man's voice I didn't recognize, but somehow felt I should. How long has she been unconscious? Since the paramedics found her, Mr. Russo. She managed to call 911, gave her location, then lost consciousness. The car was totaled. Whoever hit her meant to kill her. Silence. Then, you're certain I was listed as her emergency contact? Yes, sir. Elara Bennett, age 26. She listed you as a friend. I've never heard of her. The words should have hurt, but I was too far away to feel anything properly. Of course he didn't remember me. I'd been a terrified child, one face among dozens at the library that day. He'd been fighting for his life, watching his family die. Why would he remember the little girl hiding behind the reference desk? But I remembered him. God, how I remembered. The memory pulled me under again, back to that day. I was 11, waiting for my parents to pick me up from the Saturday reading program. Mrs. Russo had been reading to us The Secret Garden, I think. She had a kind voice, gentle, and her youngest son kept interrupting to ask questions. The teenage boy with them, her oldest, sat apart, too cool for children's stories, but clearly they're out of obligation. Then men with guns burst through the library doors. Everything after that was chaos and terror. Mrs. Russo shoved children toward exits, her body shielding theirs. The teenage boy, Dante, grabbed his little brother, trying to reach cover. I ran to the only place I knew, the storage closet where I'd helped Mrs. Chun organize books the week before. From my hiding spot, I saw it all. Mrs. Russo falling. The little boy in Dante's arms going limp. Dante himself taking a bullet to the shoulder but staying on his feet, putting himself between the gunman and any children still in sight. His eyes swept the room as he stumbled backward, bleeding, and found mine through the crack in the closet door. He was 17, just a kid himself, and his family was dying around him. He mouthed one word, "Run!" So I did. When the gunman left and the police sirens came, I ran out the back exit and kept running. I never told anyone what I'd seen. Fear kept me silent, fear that the men would come back, that I'd be next. For 15 years I'd lived invisibly, quietly, a ghost haunting the edges of the life I should have had. Until 3 days ago, when I finally broke and told Dr. Chun everything on his podcast about cold cases. When I finally tried to give Dante's family justice. Now I was paying for it. Saji successful. Next 24 hours are critical. Double. Quotes, time passed strangely in the darkness. Hours or days, I couldn't tell. But gradually, sensation returned. Pain, sharp and insistent, blooming in my ribs, my head, my left arm, the steady beep of monitors. The antiseptic smell of hospital, and a presence in my room. Someone sitting nearby, watching. I fought my way toward consciousness like swimming up from the bottom of the ocean. My eyelids felt weighted, but I forced them open. Fluorescent lights burned. I blinked, vision blurring and clearing, blurring and clearing. A figure sat in the chair beside my bed. Dark suit, darker eyes, a face carved from the same stone as the cliffs outside the city. Older than the 17-year-old boy I remembered, harder, but unmistakably him. Dante Russo had come. "You came," I whispered, my voice raw from the breathing tube they must have removed. My throat ached. Everything ached. His expression was unreadable, controlled, but his eyes— there was something in his eyes. Confusion, perhaps. Suspicion, but also something gentler. Concern, maybe. "The hospital called," he said, his voice exactly as I'd imagined it would sound. Deep, measured, with an undercurrent of barely contained power. "You listed me as your emergency contact. I didn't think you would remember me." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Pain and medication loosening my tongue. His eyes sharpened. "Remember you from where?" I tried to sit up, but pain lanced through my ribs, stealing my breath. The monitor beside me started beeping, faster, louder, frantically. Dante stood immediately, moving toward the door, but I reached out with my good arm, trying to catch his sleeve. "The library," I gasped. 15 years ago. I was there. I saw the room tilted. The beeping became a scream of sound. Suddenly doctors and nurses rushed in, pushing Dante back, their hands on me, their voices urgent but distant. "BP dropping. Get me 2 milligrams, Miss Bennett. Stay with us." I was falling again, back into the darkness. But this time I fought it. I had to tell him. Had to make him understand why I'd written his name, why I'd finally broken my silence. "Tell him," I whispered, not sure if anyone could hear me over the chaos of machines and urgent voices. "Tell him I kept my promise. Tell him I ran, just like he said." Tell him. The darkness swallowed me whole, but not before I saw Dante's face change, recognition dawning like a terrible sunrise. He remembered. I woke to ocean sounds, waves crashing against rocks, rhythmic and eternal. For a confused moment I thought I was dead, that heaven sounded like the sea. Then pain reminded me I was very much alive. My eyes opened to an unfamiliar ceiling, not hospital white, but warm cream with exposed wooden beams. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a room that belonged in an architectural magazine. Modern but comfortable, expensive but lived in. This definitely wasn't the hospital. "You're awake." I turned my head carefully, because everything still hurt, and found Dante Russo sitting in a leather chair near the window, watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. He looked like he hadn't slept, his suit jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. A laptop sat closed on the table beside him, forgotten. "Where—" my voice came out as a croak. He stood, moving to pour water from a pitcher on the nightstand. "My home. The doctors cleared you for discharge 2 days ago. But you needed somewhere safe to recover." He held the glass to my lips, supporting my head with surprising gentleness. "Somewhere I could protect you. The water was cool, perfect." I drank gratefully, then fell back against the pillows, exhausted from the minimal effort. "You didn't have to, you were 11 years old." He cut me off, his voice rough with emotion. "Wearing a yellow dress with sunflowers on it. You were sitting in the front row because Mrs. Chun said you were her best helper." His jaw tightened. "You were holding a copy of Anne of Green Gables." Tears blurred my vision. He remembered. After all these years, he remembered. "My mother loved that library," Dante continued, moving back to his chair as if he needed the distance. "She took my youngest brother, Luca, to the reading program every Saturday. That day, she asked me to come along. I was 17 and too cool for children's stories, but I couldn't say no to her." His voice cracked almost imperceptibly. "It was the last thing she ever asked me to do." "I'm so sorry," I whispered. The words felt pathetically inadequate for the magnitude of what we'd witnessed, what he'd lost. "You survived," he said simply. "That's what matters. I told you to run, and you did." I felt guilty about that every day for 15 years. The confession poured out of me. "I ran while your family died. I hid while you fought. I never told anyone what I saw, never tried to help find who did it. I was just 11 years old, Dante repeated firmly. A child who did exactly what I told her to do. There's no guilt in survival, Elara. Hearing my name on his lips sent warmth through my chest despite the pain. You know my name now. I know everything now. He picked up a folder from beside the laptop. Elara Marie Bennett. 26 years old. Parents died in a house fire when you were 12, 1 year after the massacre. No other family. You graduated top of your class, got a full scholarship to the state university, studied library science. You've worked at the Riverside Public Library for 4 years. You live alone in a one-bedroom apartment on Maple Street. You have no close friends, no romantic relationships, no social media presence. You're a ghost, Elara. You've made yourself invisible. The clinical recitation of my lonely life should have felt invasive, but instead it felt like being seen for the first time in years. I was afraid, I admitted. Afraid that if anyone noticed me, if I connected with anyone, the men who killed your family would realize they'd left a witness alive. Dante's expression darkened. They did realize. 3 days ago, you contacted Dr. Marcus Chun, a true crime podcast host. You told him about the massacre? About what you witnessed? My stomach dropped. How did you— Chun's body was found yesterday morning, Dante said, his voice cold and hard. Single gunshot to the head, execution style. His recording equipment was destroyed, but not before he'd uploaded a preliminary interview to his cloud server. My people intercepted it. Horror washed over me. Dr. Chun was dead. Because of me. Because I'd finally tried to do the right thing. The car accident wasn't an accident, I said, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. No. Dante leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his dark eyes locked on mine. Someone ran you off the road deliberately. Someone who wants to make sure what you know dies with you. He paused, letting that sink in. But you listed me as your emergency contact. Why? I met his gaze steadily despite my fear. Because if someone was trying to kill me for knowing what happened that day, I needed the one person who would understand exactly what that meant. The one person who's been hunting his family's killers for 15 years. I took a shaky breath. I needed you, Dante, even if you didn't remember me. Even if you refused to come. I needed to believe that someone would understand what I died for. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the controlled facade. Vulnerability, pain, and something fiercer. Something protective. You're not going to die, he said, the words a promise and a command. Not while I'm breathing. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire body went rigid. When he looked up, his eyes had turned to ice. What is it? I asked, fear creeping back into my voice. The man with the compass rose tattoo, Dante said quietly, dangerously. You described him in your interview with Chun. One of my men just found a match in our database. My heart hammered. Who is he? Dante's smile was sharp as a blade. His name is Victor Kozlov. And according to my sources, he was spotted in the city yesterday. He stood, buttoning his shirt cuffs with precise, controlled movements. Which means the people who killed my family 15 years ago are still here, still operating. And they know you can identify them. He moved to the door, then paused, looking back at me with an expression that was equal parts protective and predatory. Rest, Elara, get your strength back. Because when you're ready, we're going to finish what they started that day. His voice dropped to something dark and absolute. And this time, no one runs. 3 days passed in Dante's estate, a fortress disguised as a home. Security cameras hidden in gardens, armed men patrolling the perimeter. I was healing in a gilded cage, but for the first time in 15 years, I felt safe. Dante appeared in my doorway each morning like clockwork, checking on me with an intensity that should have felt suffocating, but instead felt protective. You barely touched breakfast, he observed, settling into the chair across from me without asking. He'd shed the corporate armor today, dark jeans and a black Henley that made him look less dangerous, more human. Hard to eat when everything hurts, I admitted, gesturing to my still bruised ribs. He studied me quietly. Tell me about the tattoo again, the compass rose. Where exactly? I closed my eyes, forcing myself back. Right wrist. I saw it when he reloaded. The compass had detailed markings, coordinates written around the edge. Dante pulled out his phone, showing me a crime scene photo. The compass rose tattoo was exactly as I remember. Intricate. Almost beautiful. That's it, I breathed. Viktor Kozlov, former Russian military, now a freelance enforcer. His jaw tightened. He was 23 when he murdered my family. He's still taking contracts. Can you find him? My people are looking. His eyes locked on mine. But I need everything you remember. How many men? What did they say? My hands trembled. 15 years of trying to forget. And now he needed me to remember. 4 men total. 2 at the entrance, Kozlov and 1 other went deeper. They were looking for someone. They kept asking where he was. Dante went rigid. My father. He was supposed to meet my mother there, but got delayed. His voice cracked. He arrived 10 minutes too late. The weight of that timing hung between us 10 minutes that separated life and death. The 4th man was older, I continued. Maybe 40. Scar across his left eyebrow. He called Kozlov Compass or Navigator. Dante was already on his phone. Giovanni, pull all of Kozlov's known associates from 15 years ago. Men in their 40s, leadership positions, facial scarring. He paused. And I want security footage from Riverside Library for the past month. He ended the call and met my confused look. If Kozlov knew you talked to Chun, he might have been watching you. The thought made me sick. Those weeks of feeling eyes on me hadn't been paranoia. I want to help, I said suddenly. Really help. Not just remember, but whatever you need to find these people. This isn't your world, Alara. It's dangerous. They tried to kill me. They killed Dr. Chun. I leaned forward despite the pain. It became my world the moment I witnessed that massacre. I've been living in their shadow for 15 years. I want to step into the light. Something shifted in his expression. Respect. Recognition. If you do this, you'll see things about me that can't be unknown. I already know who you are, I said quietly. You're the boy who saved my life. Show me the rest. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But we start slow. 2 hours later. We sat in his office, surrounded by files and photographs. 15 years of investigation spread across his desk. My father was building a case against Senator Richard Vale, Dante explained, pointing to a photo of a distinguished man. Vale was taking bribes from developers. My father had proof, was going to expose him the week after. He stopped, jaw tight. You think Vale ordered the hit? I've always suspected, but couldn't prove it. Vale's too connected. His voice went cold. But with your testimony placing Kozlov at the scene, we might finally have enough. We worked through the afternoon, his team bringing information as they gathered it. I discovered I had a talent for connecting patterns, seeing what others missed. Years of organizing databases had prepared me for this. As evening fell, Giovanni entered with a laptop. Sir, we have the library footage. Dante scrolled through weeks of grainy surveillance. My workplace, where I'd walked every day, never knowing I was being hunted. Then he froze the image. Lara, look. The timestamp read 2 weeks ago, 3 days before. I'd contacted Dr. Chun. The camera showed the library entrance and across the street. Partially hidden by a tree stood a man in a dark coat. When he shifted, his right wrist came into view. The compass rose tattoo gleamed clearly. That's him, I whispered. That's Kozlov. Dante's hand found mine, gripping tight. He was watching you. 2 weeks before the accident, he already knew who you were. The implications crashed over me. He'd been stalking me, studying my patterns. If he'd been watching 2 weeks ago, he'd probably been watching longer. Months, maybe years. They've known about me this whole time, I said, voice hollow. They've always known I was there that day. They just never thought I'd talk. Dante turned to face me fully, his expression fierce. Then we make sure they regret letting you live. His thumb brushed my knuckles. You're not alone anymore, Alara. Where you go, I go. The promise in his words wrapped around me like armor. For 15 years I'd been alone with this secret, this fear. Now I had someone who understood. Someone who would fight beside me. someone I was beginning to trust with more than just my safety. "So what's our next move?" I asked. Dante's smile was sharp as a blade. "We find Kozlov, and we make him tell us everything. You have 3 options." Dante said the next morning, his tone businesslike despite the intimate setting of my recovery suite. He stood by the window, backlit by ocean light, looking every inch the crime boss the city whispered about. "And you need to choose today." I set down my coffee, bracing myself. "I'm listening. Option 1. You stay here under my protection indefinitely. Full security. New identity if necessary. But you'd never testify, never participate in the investigation. You disappear into a safe, quiet life. The idea of hiding forever made something rebel in my chest. And option 2. Witness protection through official channels. I have contacts in the federal system. You'd get a new identity, relocation, the works. But you'd be alone, and you'd have to trust the same authorities who failed to catch my family's killers 15 years ago. Both options meant running again. Different circumstances, better protection, but still running. "What's option 3? I asked, though something in his expression told me he'd been waiting for me to ask. Dante turned from the window, his dark eyes intense. "You work with me. Help me identify everyone involved in the massacre. Testify when the time comes. But you do it here, with my protection, with access to resources law enforcement doesn't have." He paused. "It's the most dangerous option, Ilara. You'd be putting yourself directly in their crosshairs." "I'm already in their crosshairs," I pointed out. "They ran me off the road, remember?" This would be different. Active involvement means active risk. I thought about the past 15 years, the isolation, the fear, the weight of carrying that secret alone. Then I thought about Dante's family, about Dr. Chun, about every life destroyed by the people who'd walked into that library with guns. "I choose option 3, I said firmly. "I want to help you find them." Something flickered in Dante's expression. Surprise, maybe, or approval. "You understand what you're agreeing to? The things you'll see, the world you'll be entering?" "I understand that I've been running for 15 years and it didn't keep me safe. I understand that you're the only person who can protect me while we finish this." I met his gaze steadily. "And I understand that I owe your family justice. I survived that day for a reason. Maybe this is it." Dante crossed the room, sitting in the chair across from me. "This isn't about debt, Ilara. If you do this, it has to be your choice, not obligation. It is my choice, and I meant it. Teach me how to survive in your world. Dante, help me become strong enough to face them." He studied me for a long moment, then extended his hand. "All right, we have a deal." I shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip. A handshake that felt like a vow. "You'll move from the guest suite to the east wing," he said, already shifting into planning mode. "It's more secure, closer to my quarters. You'll learn basic self-defense, how to read situations, how to recognize threats. And we'll work together every day reconstructing what happened, identifying everyone involved." Over the following days, my life transformed. The East Wing became my sanctuary, a spacious suite with a sitting room, bedroom, and private terrace overlooking the cliffs. But I wasn't there much. Most of my time was spent in Dante's office, surrounded by case files and evidence. We worked in intense focus, our heads bent over photographs and documents, occasionally so close I could feel the heat of him. He taught me to see patterns in financial records, to read body language in surveillance footage, to understand the coded language of his world. And slowly, the walls between us began to crumble. Late one night, reviewing crime scene photos from the library, Dante's hand trembled almost imperceptibly. I looked up and saw raw grief in his eyes, the kind that lived just beneath the surface, controlled but never conquered. "We can stop for tonight," I said softly. "No." His voice was rough. "I've looked at these photos 1,000 times. I should be numb to them by now." "You loved them. You're not supposed to be numb." He looked at me then, really looked. And I saw past the dangerous crime boss to the 17-year-old boy who'd lost everything. "Sometimes I can't remember my mother's voice anymore," he admitted quietly. "I have videos, recordings, but the memory itself is fading." Without thinking, I reached across the desk and took his hand. Tell me about her. Not about that day, about before. And he did. For the first time since I'd woken in his home, we talked about something other than revenge and justice. He told me about his mother's terrible singing, his father's awful jokes, his little brother's obsession with dinosaurs. I told him about my parents, about the life I'd had before fear became my constant companion. The conversation stretched past midnight, past exhaustion, two people who'd carried grief alone finally sharing the weight. When I finally returned to my suite, something had shifted between us. We weren't just allies anymore. We were becoming something more, something neither of us had words for yet. The next morning, Giovanni knocked on Dante's office door where we were already working, his expression grave. "Sir, we have a location on Kozlov." Dante stood immediately. "Where?" "Warehouse district, meeting with known associates." Giovanni's eyes flicked to me. "Our surveillance team is in position." Dante turned to me, conflict clear on his face. "Alora, I'm coming with you," I said before he could finish. "I'm the only one who can positively identify him from that day. It's too dangerous. We had a deal. Dante, where you go, I go." I used his own words against him. "Isn't that what you promised?" His jaw tightened, but he nodded once. "You stay in the vehicle. Don't move unless I give the signal. Understood?" "Understood." As we prepared to leave, Dante handed me a phone. "If anything goes wrong, you press this button. It alerts my entire security team and sends your location. Promise me you'll use it." I took the phone, our fingers brushing. "I promise." His hand lingered on mine for a moment longer than necessary. "Don't make me regret bringing you into this." "I won't," I said, though my heart was hammering with fear and adrenaline. We were about to come face to face with the man who'd murdered Dante's family. And nothing would ever be the same. The warehouse district at night was a study in shadows and decay. Rusted shipping containers stacked like forgotten building blocks, broken streetlights creating pools of darkness where anything could hide. I sat in the back of Dante's armored SUV, a communications device fitted in my ear, my hands clenched in my lap. "Remember," Dante said from the front passenger seat, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror, "you observe only. Do you confirm identification?" "Nothing more." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Through the tinted windows I could see his team moving into position, shadows within shadows, professionals who knew how to hunt. Giovanni touched his earpiece, listening. "They're inside. Kozlov and 3 others." Dante's jaw tightened. He checked his weapon with practiced efficiency, then turned to face me fully. "If shooting starts, you get down and stay down. Giovanni will get you out." "Be careful," I whispered. Something softened in his expression. "Always am." Then he was gone, moving into the darkness with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone his size. I watched through the window as Dante and 4 of his men approached the warehouse. My heart hammered so loud I was sure everyone could hear it through the comms. In position, Dante's voice came through my earpiece, calm and controlled. "Alara, can you hear me?" "Yes," I breathed. "We're going in. Stay alert." The wait was agonizing. Seconds stretched into eternities. Then I heard movement through the comms. A door opening, footsteps on concrete, and Dante's voice, hard with authority. "Victor Kozlov, we need to talk." Confusion, then panic in Russian-accented English. "Who the hell, Russo? How did you? Doesn't matter how. What matters is what you're going to tell me about 15 years ago. The library. The Russo family massacre." Silence. Then Kozlov's voice, calculating now. "That's ancient history, Russo. Why dig up old graves?" "Because one of the graves belongs to my mother." Dante's voice could have cut glass. "And I have a witness who puts you at the scene." My breath caught. Through the SUV's windshield I could just make out figures through a dirty warehouse window. 4 men cornered, Dante's team surrounding them. A witness? Kozlov laughed, but it sounded nervous. After 15 years? Who'd believe them? I would. Dante moved closer. I could sense it through the comms. "Give me the name of who ordered the hit, Kozlov. Give me that, and maybe you walk out of here." A long pause. Then, "You know I can't do that. I'd be dead by morning." "You're dead right now if you don't." More silence. I could hear Kozlov breathing hard, weighing his options. Finally, Vale. Senator Richard Vale. He ordered it. Your father had evidence, financial records, bribes, everything. Vale couldn't let it go public. My hands flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp. We'd suspected, but hearing the confirmation, Vale ordered you to kill my entire family. Dante's voice shook with controlled rage. Just your father. The rest was wrong place, wrong time. We didn't know his family would be there. It was supposed to be clean, but Kozlov's words cut off with a wet, choking sound. Through the window I saw his body jerk, then crumple. Sniper. Someone shouted through the cums. East roof. Gunfire erupted. The warehouse windows exploded in a shower of glass. Dante's men returned fire, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Get her out! Dante's voice roared through my earpiece. Giovanni now? But Giovanni was already out of the SUV, weapon drawn, returning fire at something I couldn't see. The driver's side window spider-webbed with cracks, a bullet impact. Terror froze me. We were trapped, exposed. The passenger door beside me yanked open and Dante was there, his face streaked with dust and fury. Down! He threw himself into the SUV, covering my body with his as bullets punched through metal. The sound was deafening, sharp cracks and the whine of ricochets. I couldn't breathe. Dante's weight pressed me into the seat, his heart hammering against my back, his arms caging me completely. Protective. Absolute. I've got you, he said against my ear, his voice cutting through the chaos. I've got you. The gunfire intensified, then gradually died. Shouting, running footsteps. Giovanni's voice. Sniper down. 2 hostiles neutralized. The others scattered. Dante didn't move immediately. I felt the tension in his body, the controlled violence held barely in check. When he finally pulled back, his eyes scanned me frantically. Are you hurt? I shook my head, unable to speak. My whole body trembled. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Breathe, Alara. Look at me and breathe. I focused on his face, the intensity in his dark eyes, the sharp line of his jaw, the small cut on his cheek from flying glass. Real. Solid. Safe. That's it, he murmured. You're okay. You're safe. But I wasn't safe. None of us were. Because whoever had killed Kozlov to keep him from talking was still out there. Vale had just shown his hand. He was willing to kill witnesses in broad view of Dante's men. This was war now. Dante seemed to realize it at the same moment. His expression hardened as he looked toward the warehouse where Kozlov's body lay. He confirmed it, Dante said quietly, dangerously. Vale ordered my family's execution. And now he's eliminating loose ends, I said, finding my voice. Dante's eyes met mine, and I saw something fierce and protective there, something that made my breath catch for entirely different reasons. He's not getting to you, Dante said. The words a vow. Whatever it takes, Ilara, whatever I have to do, Vale doesn't touch you. The way he looked at me in that moment, like I was something precious, worth protecting at any cost, made me realize the truth we'd both been avoiding. This wasn't just about justice anymore. Somewhere between the hospital and this moment, between shared grief and shared danger, we'd become something more than allies. And that terrified me more than any sniper's bullet. Back at the estate, Dante's team worked with military precisions, sweeping for tracking devices, reinforcing security protocols, analyzing the warehouse attack. I sat in Dante's office, a blanket wrapped around my shoulders despite the room's warmth, watching him pace like a caged predator. Vale knew, Dante said, more to himself than to me. He knew we'd found Kozlov, which means he has eyes on my organization. Giovanni stood by the door, his expression grave. We're running counter-surveillance on all personnel. If there's a leak, we'll find it. Find it fast. Dante's voice was cold steel. Vale just murdered a man in front of witnesses to keep him silent. It's escalating. After Giovanni left, silence settled between us. The adrenaline was fading, leaving exhaustion and the stark reality of what we'd witnessed. I almost got you killed tonight, Dante said finally, his back to me as he stared out at the dark ocean. You saved my life tonight, I corrected. Again. He turned, and the anguish in his eyes caught me off guard. I shouldn't have brought you. I knew it was dangerous, but He stopped, jaw tight. I've spent 15 years being careful, calculated. Then you appear and suddenly I'm making reckless decisions. I stood, the blanket falling away. Bringing me wasn't reckless. We got Vale's name. We have confirmation. And now he knows we're coming for him. Dante moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the intimate space. He'll come for you, Alara. You're the witness who can place Kozlov at the scene. With Kozlov dead, you're his biggest threat. Then we move first. I lifted my chin, refusing to show fear. What's our next move? Something flickered in his expression. Something warmer. Admiration. Something warmer. Our next move is keeping you alive long enough to testify. Val's running for governor, I said, my mind racing. He's announcing his campaign this week. Public appearances, media, everywhere. He can't disappear or act suspiciously without questions. Dante studied me carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that powerful men have patterns. Secrets. If your father had evidence of Vale's corruption 15 years ago, Vale's probably still corrupt now. I moved to his desk, pulling up files on the laptop. We expose him publicly. During his campaign announcement, where he can't make the story disappear, that puts you directly in his crosshairs. I'm already there. I met his gaze steadily. But if we do this right, if we gather enough evidence and release it where he can't suppress it, he'll be too busy defending himself to come after me. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then a slow smile curved his lips. You're starting to think like someone from my world. Good, because I'm not leaving it. The words came out with more conviction than I'd expected. I'm not running anymore, Dante. He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands framing my face with surprising gentleness. You understand what you're saying? What you're choosing? My heart hammered, but not from fear. From something else entirely, something that had been building since the moment he'd appeared at my hospital bedside. I'm choosing this. You. All of it. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just us, his dark eyes searching mine. His thumb brushing my cheek, the barely controlled tension in his body. Then his phone shattered the moment. Pulled back, answering with a curt, "What?" His expression darkened as he listened. "When? How long ago?" A pause. "Lock down the facility. I want armed guards on her floor. Nobody goes in or out without my direct authorization." He ended the call, his face carved from stone. "There was an incident at your mother's hospital." My blood turned to ice. "What kind of incident?" "Someone tried to access the patient record system. They were looking for information on anyone connected to you." His jaw tightened. "They didn't get through our security, but they know about my mother." Horror washed over me. "Vale knows I have a weakness." "He won't get to her," Dante said fiercely. "I've already tripled security. She's in a private wing now with my personal guards. She's safer than the president." But the message was clear. Vale was done being subtle. He was going after everyone I cared about. "I need to see her," I said, panic rising. "I need to make sure she's not tonight. It's too dangerous to move you." He gripped my shoulders, forcing me to focus. "Trust me, Alara. I won't let anything happen to her. I promise you." I wanted to argue, to demand he take me to her immediately, but the logic was sound. Moving now, emotional and unfocused, would only create opportunities for Vale. "Okay," I whispered. "But first thing tomorrow, we visit her together." His hands slid down my arms, steadying. And then we start taking Vale apart piece by piece. That night, sleep was impossible. I kept seeing Kozlov's body crumpling, kept imagining Vale's people finding my mother, kept replaying the moment Dante had thrown himself over me to shield me from bullets. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and wandered to the terrace. The ocean crashed against the cliffs below, violent and eternal. I didn't hear Dante approach until he spoke. Couldn't sleep either? I turned to find him in the doorway, still dressed, looking as exhausted as I felt. Too much adrenaline. Too many thoughts. He joined me at the railing, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. For several minutes we stood in companionable silence, watching the dark water. My mother used to say that the ocean remembers everything, Dante said quietly. Every ship that sailed, every storm, every life lost. She said it kept the memories so we didn't have to carry them alone. That's beautiful, I whispered. I used to think it was nonsense. Poetic, but meaningless. He turned to look at me. But standing here with you, sharing this weight we've carried for so long, maybe she was right. Maybe we're not meant to carry these things alone. The vulnerability in his voice undid something inside me. Without thinking, I reached for his hand. He laced his fingers through mine immediately, as if he'd been waiting for permission. I'm glad you came when the hospital called, I said. I'm glad you remembered me. I'm glad you survived, he replied, his voice rough. I'm glad you kept running, just like I told you to. And I'm glad you finally stopped. He lifted our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles, a gesture so tender it made my breath catch. Whatever happened with Vale, whatever dangers lay ahead, I knew one truth with absolute certainty. I was falling for Dante Russo, and there was no running from that. My mother's new hospital suite looked more like a luxury hotel room than medical care. 2 of Dante's men stood guard outside, their postures radiating controlled vigilance. Inside, my mother sat propped against pillows, healthier than I'd seen her in years, but sharp-eyed with concern. Adriana, she said, using my middle name, what's happening? These men won't explain anything. I sat on the edge of her bed, Dante standing by the window giving us privacy. I told her an abbreviated version, the library massacre, being a witness, the people who wanted me silent. When I finished, she looked past me to Dante. You're protecting my daughter. Yes, ma'am. And you care about her. This isn't just business. Dante's eyes found mine. No, ma'am, it's not. She squeezed my hand. Then do whatever's necessary to keep her safe, as we left. She whispered close to my ear. Men like him live in a world where love is a liability, but sometimes it's the only thing worth fighting for. In the car returning to the estate, my secure phone rang. Unknown number. I showed Dante, and his expression hardened. Answer it. Speaker. I obeyed, hand trembling. Hello, Miss Bennet? Richard Vale. I believe we should talk. Every muscle in my body locked. Dante's hand found mine, squeezing once. I have nothing to say to you, I managed. I disagree. You have a great deal to say about certain events 15 years ago. His voice was smooth, confident. But I'm offering you something better. A deal. Your silence for your safety. And your mother's continued excellent care. Ice flooded my veins. You're threatening my mother. I'm offering a choice. Walk away, forget what you saw, and everyone lives peacefully. Or continue with Russo and watch everyone you love suffer consequences. He paused. I'm a powerful man, Miss Bennet. I can make problems disappear. Create them. I need time to think. 24 hours. I'll call tomorrow at noon with instructions. Make the right choice. The line went dead. Dante's control shattered. He slammed his fist against the seat, the violence sudden and shocking. He's not getting to you. I don't care what I have to do, Dante. No, you're not meeting him. I won't lose you to the same monster who took my family. The raw emotion in his voice made my heart ache. I touched his face gently. I wasn't going to meet him. But we can use this. He stilled. What? He's scared enough to reach out directly. That means we're getting close. My mind raced. Thinks I'm the weak link. What if I agree to meet him? Absolutely not. Listen. Public place. He thinks he's in control. But we whammy surround the location with your people. Get him to confess on record. I'm not using you as bait, Dante said flatly. You're not using me. I'm offering. I gripped his arm. There's a difference. His hands cupped my face, desperate. I can't lose you, Alara. Do you understand? I can't. His voice broke, and I understood. This was about a 17-year-old boy who'd lost everyone, who'd spent 15 years alone, who'd finally found someone who understood him. I covered his hands with mine. "You won't lose me. I promise." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can, because we're doing this together." I held his gaze. "Where you go, I go, remember?" He closed his eyes, warring with himself. When they opened, cold calculation had replaced vulnerability. "If we do this, my terms, my location, my security, my rules. First sign of trouble, we abort." "Agreed." He pulled me close, forehead against mine. "This is insane. Welcome to my world," I whispered. His laugh was short, humorless. "When did you become the brave one?" "When I decided you were worth fighting for." The confession hung between us, raw and honest. Dante's expression transformed, surprise, wonder, heat building. Before he could respond, his phone rang. He answered, then went rigid. "When? How many?" He ended the call, face carved from stone. "Vale's men just tried to breach your mother's floor. My team stopped them, but he's not waiting 24 hours. He's moving now." Fear crystallized into fury. Vale had made his biggest mistake. "Call him back," I said, my voice cold and clear. "Tell him I accept. I'll meet him tomorrow." Dante's eyes met mine, and in them I saw understanding. This was war. And we were going to win. The wire was smaller than I'd imagined, a delicate device taped between my ribs, hidden beneath a simple blue dress. The technician, one of Dante's people, tested it one final time. "Clear signal," he confirmed. "We'll hear everything." Vale had chosen the location, Crawford Plaza, where he was holding his gubernatorial campaign announcement. Thousands would attend, media everywhere. He thought the crowd would protect him, make Dante's people too cautious to act. He was wrong. "Remember the plan," Dante said for the 10th time, his hands on my shoulders. We stood in the back of the surveillance van 2 blocks from the plaza. "You get him talking, confirm his involvement, then we extract you." "I know." I covered his hands with mine. "I'll be fine. If anything feels wrong, anything, you say the abort phrase and we come in immediately." The abort phrase was, "I need air." Simple, natural, easy to work into conversation. "Dante." I turned to face him fully. "Trust me." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Then, surprising me, he pulled me close and kissed me, fierce, desperate, claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with emotion. "Come back to me," he whispered. "Always." Giovanni escorted me to the plaza's edge, then melted into the crowd. I was alone now, wearing the wire, carrying a small panic button in my pocket, surrounded by thousands of people who had no idea they were about to witness a confession. My phone buzzed. "Val's number. Miss Bennett. I see you've arrived." "Very wise." His voice was smooth, satisfied. "There's a VIP tent east of the main stage. Join me there." I navigated through the crowd, heart hammering. The VIP tent was guarded, but they had my name on a list. Inside, away from the masses, Senator Richard Vale waited with a glass of champagne and a predator's smile. "Miss Bennett, I'm pleased you chose reason over loyalty." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit." I remained standing. "You said you could make my problems disappear." "I want details. Direct. I appreciate that." He sipped his champagne. "It's simple, really. You forget what you saw 15 years ago. You never testify, never speak to authorities or journalists. In exchange, your mother receives the finest care available, and you receive a generous settlement. Enough to start over anywhere you'd like. And if I refuse?" His smile turned cold. "Then accidents happen. Your mother's condition could deteriorate suddenly. You could have another unfortunate car incident. Dante Russo might find his organization infiltrated by federal investigations." He leaned closer. "I've spent decades building power, Miss Bennett. I won't let one witness destroy that." "One witness to what, exactly?" I kept my voice steady, knowing the wire was catching every word. "To an unfortunate situation 15 years ago." He waved dismissively. "The Russo family was collateral damage in a necessary action. Dominic Russo had evidence that would have ruined me: financial records, proof of bribes, communications with developers. I couldn't allow that information to surface. So you ordered their deaths?" "Not a question." I ordered Dominic's death. The family being there was ... double quotes, he paused. Regrettable, but ultimately inconsequential. No one mourns criminals. Rage burned through me, but I kept my expression neutral. And you hired Viktor Kozlov to do it. Among others, yes. Kozlov was efficient. Until he became a liability himself. Vale's eyes hardened. Much like you've become, Miss Bennett. Is that a threat? It's reality. You have two choices. Accept my offer and live comfortably. Or refuse and discover just how far my reach extends. He checked his watch. I go on stage in 5 minutes. I need your answer now. Through the tent opening, I could see the massive screens flanking the stage, currently showing Vale's campaign logo. What Vale didn't know was that Dante's people had hacked the broadcast feed an hour ago. And every word Vale had just spoken was now cued to play. I have my answer, I said clearly. I choose justice. Vale's expression darkened. Foolish girl. Do you think? Russo can protect. His words cut off as his own voice boomed through the plaza speakers. I ordered Dominic's death. The family being there was regrettable, but ultimately inconsequential. ... double. Quotes. Vale spun toward the tent opening, horror dawning as his confession played on every screen, broadcast to thousands of witnesses, dozens of news cameras, streaming live across the internet. No, he breathed. No, security rushed in, but not Vale's security. Dante's men showing federal badges that looked entirely legitimate. And behind them, actual federal agents who'd been watching the live feed with warrants already prepared. Chaos erupted. Vale tried to run but was surrounded. Media swarmed. The crowd roared with shock and outrage. Strong hands gripped my shoulders and I spun Dante, his face fierce with relief and pride. He pulled me against him, his arms a fortress. You did it, he said against my hair. It's over. I watched federal agents handcuff Vale, watched his political career implode in real time, watched justice finally catch up to the man who'd destroyed so many lives. But as the adrenaline faded, Dante's expression turned serious. Not quite over. There's one more thing I need to do. My heart stuttered. What? His eyes held mine, intense and purposeful. Come with me. There's somewhere we need to go. As we left the chaos behind, I realized the real ending, the real beginning was still ahead of us. 3 weeks after Vale's arrest, Dante drove me to a part of the city I'd avoided for 15 years. My hands trembled as familiar streets appeared, the neighborhood where everything had changed. Where are we going? I asked, though part of me already knew. You'll see. We stopped in front of the old public library. Boarded windows, faded paint, a chain-link fence surrounding the property. Scheduled for demolition, the sign said. The place where Dante's family had died, where I'd lost my innocence, where both our lives had shattered. I bought it, Dante said quietly, helping me from the car. Last week. The city was going to tear it down, but I couldn't let that happen. He unlocked the fence, leading me through overgrown gardens to the main entrance. Inside, dust motes danced in sunlight streaming through broken windows. The space felt frozen in time children's books still on shelves, reading circle chairs arranged as they'd been that day. Why? My voice echoed in the emptiness. Dante stopped in the center of the main room where his mother had been reading, where everything had ended, because this place shouldn't be remembered only for death. My mother loved this library. She brought Luca here every week, believed in the magic of stories, of safe spaces where children could dream. He turned to face me, vulnerability clear in his expression. I want to rebuild it. A memorial and community center in my family's name. A library again, but also more programs for at-risk kids, after-school tutoring, art classes. Everything my mother would have wanted. Tears blurred my vision. Dante, that's beautiful. I want you to run it. He stepped closer. I know you studied library science, that you've always loved books. This could be yours, Alara, a way to transform our darkest day into something meaningful. I looked around the space, imagining it restored, children laughing where gunshots had echoed, stories being read where blood had spilled, healing built on tragedy's foundation. It's not just about the building, Dante continued. It's about what you've taught me these past weeks. that I'm more than what was done to me. That survival isn't enough. We have to live, create, build something better. He took my hands, his grip warm and solid. 15 years ago, I told you to run. I saved your life, but you saved mine too. You reminded me. I'm still capable of something other than vengeance. Dante, let me finish. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. I've spent 15 years in darkness, Alara. Anger and grief, an obsession with revenge. Then you appeared, listing me as your emergency contact, trusting me when you had no reason to. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. You stepped into my world willingly, stood beside me through danger, showed me mercy could exist alongside justice. He dropped to one knee, and the symbolism of it, this powerful, dangerous man kneeling in the place where both our lives had broken, made tears spill down my cheeks. I'm asking you to stay, not as someone under my protection, but as my partner, my equal, my wife. His voice roughened with emotion.
Marry me, Alara.
Help me rebuild this place. Build a life with me from the ashes of what we lost. Yes, I whispered. Then louder. Yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, standing to pull me into his arms. His kiss was gentle, reverent, full of promise. When we pulled apart, both our faces were wet. Where you go, I said softly, echoing the words we'd exchanged before. Where you go, I go, he repeated. Your past is my past. Your future is my future. 6 months later, the Russo family memorial library opened to a crowd of hundreds. Children raced through the restored reading room, their laughter a symphony replacing echoes of gunfire. My mother, fully recovered, supervised the art program. Dante's security team, Giovanni, Marco, and others, volunteered as mentors. I stood in the center of the main room, now filled with light and life, watching Dante read to a group of wide-eyed children. The same room where his mother had read, where his brother had asked endless questions, where I'd hidden and survived. He looked up, catching my eye, and smiled, genuine, warm, free of the shadows that had haunted him for so long. We'd had transformed our darkest day into something beautiful, not by forgetting, but by choosing to create rather than destroy. To love rather than hate. To build rather than break. That evening, as we locked up and walked hand in hand through gardens we'd planted together, Dante stopped me beneath the oak tree where we'd scattered his family's ashes. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For running when I told you to. For coming back when I called. For choosing to stay. He pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. For reminding me that surviving isn't the same as living. I kissed him softly. We saved each other. And we had. 2 people broken by the same tragedy, finding wholeness in each other. Justice through love, healing through creation. A future built not on revenge, but on the radical choice to transform pain into purpose, not an ending, a beginning.